Australia has spent almost $1 billion on offshore processing in a single year. That works out to more than $9 million for every asylum seeker sent to Nauru. It is an extraordinary amount of public money. So why are people there still going hungry? That's the question now confronting the Australian government after a new survey found that many of the more than 100 asylum seekers living on the tiny Pacific island are skipping meals because they simply cannot afford enough food. Others say they regularly go without fresh fruit, vegetables and clean drinking water. Some have even reported eating discarded food because they have run out of money. For many Australians, the figures are difficult to understand. How can a system costing taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars each year leave people struggling to afford even the most basic necessities? The asylum seekers receive an allowance of around $260 every fortnight, but Nauru is one of the most expensive places in the Pacific. Almost everything has to be imported. Fresh food is scarce, prices are high, clean drinking water can also be difficult to access. For many, the money simply does not stretch far enough. This paints a troubling picture. Almost every person questioned said they could not afford enough food. Many reported skipping meals, others described losing weight, feeling constantly tired, and watching their physical and mental health deteriorate as they wait for their refugee claims to be processed. The Australian government maintains that people transferred to Nauru receive accommodation, healthcare and support that meets Australia's human rights obligations. Officials argue offshore processing remains a key part of Australia's border protection and is designed to deter dangerous people smuggling operations. But critics say the latest figures expose something much deeper. They question where the money is actually going. If taxpayers are spending more than $9 million per person each year, why are vulnerable people struggling to buy food? Why are they unable to work? Why are so many still waiting in limbo with no certainty about what happens next? For the people living on Nauru, these are not political questions. They are everyday realities. Do they eat every day? Do they save money for drinking water? Do they skip another meal so they can buy soap or medicine? This is the story about far more than immigration policy. It is about human dignity. It is about accountability. And it is about whether one of the world's wealthiest countries can justify spending enormous sums on a system that still leaves people saying they are hungry. Because behind every budget figure is a human being, someone waiting, someone hoping, someone wondering whether anybody is listening.
The findings also raise broader questions about Australia's offshore detention model. Successive Australian governments, both Labor and Coalition, have defended offshore processing as an essential deterrent against dangerous boat journeys organised by people smugglers. Supporters argue the policy has prevented deaths at sea and protected Australia's borders. But critics say deterrence should never come at the cost of basic human needs. Many of the people on Nauru have been waiting months, and in some cases much longer, for their refugee claims to be resolved. They are not allowed to work legally, meaning they depend almost entirely on government-funded allowances, despite living in one of the Pacific's most expensive countries. Humanitarian groups argue that prolonged uncertainty is taking a heavy psychological toll. Living in limbo, unable to plan for the future, separated from family, and worried about where the next meal will come from, creates enormous stress and anxiety. For ordinary Australians, another question is emerging. Is this the best use of taxpayer money? Nearly $1 billion has been spent in a single year, yet reports suggest many asylum seekers cannot afford enough food or clean drinking water. That disconnect is likely to fuel renewed debate over whether Australia's offshore detention system is achieving its objectives or simply creating another costly humanitarian crisis.
The debate over offshore processing has divided Australia for more than a decade, and this latest report is unlikely to end that argument. The government insists its border policies are necessary. Human rights organisations argue the system is failing the people trapped inside it. Whatever your view on immigration, few would expect a program costing taxpayers millions of dollars per person to leave people saying they cannot afford enough to eat. As pressure grows for greater transparency, Australians are once again being asked a difficult question. Is this system delivering security, value for money and humanity, or has it lost sight of all three? This is Breaking Silence.